I want to take a brief moment actually to talk about Kanye West and Timcast. So I caught this online. And interestingly, Nikki has literally just said, only douchebags like Milo wear sunglasses indoors. Yeah, I always think of that. I always think of that song. I wear my sunglasses at night. Awful rendition. Please don't clip that. So whenever I see someone wearing their sunglasses inside, I always think of that song. I'm like, you're a penis. You don't look as cool as what that song implies you look like. All right? Shush. So I want to talk about the Kanye West Timcast situation because I tweeted this out, and I watched it this morning. It's been all over the internet. Obviously, naturally, it's been all over the internet, and it's been a really interesting turn of events, I think. Now, if you don't know what this is, Ye or Kanye turned up and did a Timcast IRL, whatever his bloody fucking thing's called, Timcast IRL. Did one of them. And Kanye walked out, right? He walked out after about like 20 odd minutes. And he walked out because fundamentally, Tim Pool is not an interviewer. He doesn't interview people. He can't interview. He has an awful interview style. And wait, I will back this up as best as I can. But he himself even said it. So I tweeted this out. Says, watch the Timcast Ye interaction. Interesting stuff. Because it is interesting stuff. No matter what you think of what's been said, because this is the important distinction between what we're going to be, talking about here. Whether you agree or you disagree with what Ye is saying, that's not what we're talking about. It's an interesting interaction because regardless of the topic and the thoughts being questioned, Tim is, unfortunately, a hypocrite, as he himself will not be challenged on anything he believes. And so the fundamental basis behind Kanye leaving was an interaction where, Kanye says he's been cancelled, lambasted in the press. And Tim uses the general they as in the press. Now, obviously, Kanye's been using the they as a broad stroke for Jewish people who are in power, essentially cancelling him, right? That's what he's been using it as, and Tim used it in the broad stroke context of, hey, this is the journalist media. They tried to do this, and they treated you poorly. And the thing is that there's very clearly like a fundamental breakdown of the reason why Kanye even went on there to begin with, and why Tim had him on there. Because after Kanye walked out, Tim went on a tirade for the rest of the show, literally the rest of the show, saying how he was there to talk about the news. Tim, mate, no one watching that wants to hear Kanye's opinion on the fucking news. Literally, no one wants to hear Kanye's opinion on the news. They want to hear what Kanye's got to say about what he's been saying, because that's interesting. To get someone to sit there and actually just discuss it all is that's an interesting opportunity. And literally no one was watching that to listen to Tim Pool's opinion. Everyone knows what Tim Pool's opinion is. He had 100,000 viewers watching because they wanted to watch Kanye, not Tim Pool. Big difference. Big difference. And he went on this massive tirade about how, no, I got him on. I don't owe him anything. He doesn't owe me anything. I won't have him on again. And I had him on there to talk about the. I had him on there to talk about the news. And he just wanted to. He just wanted to talk about himself. It's like, that is literally why most people were watching that, Tim. No one wanted to hear what your opinion was on anything. Everyone knows what your opinion is on everything, Tim. Everyone knows. Because it doesn't change. It remains the same week on, week out. It's singular. And the thing is, never, ever, ever watch Tim for his guests. You should never watch Tim for his guests. Why? Because he doesn't interview them. He's not an interviewer. And that is fundamentally revealed in this interaction. Now, again, in terms of, so Kanye walking out was already sort of foreshadowed in the beginning of his sort of discussing stuff, where he's like, I'm not going to be, I'll just walk out if I'm going to be surrounded by people that, saying this and saying that and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh, okay, right. So he's already foreshadowed that he's going to leave. He's going to walk out. He's not going to be happy there. So we already foreshadowed that. And then what happened was the discussion of the broad stroke by Tim saying they, the media, the journalists, and then Kanye obviously alluding the they to Jewish people. Kanye asked, well, who's they then? You don't want to say who they is, do you? We know who they is, or something along those lines. And, we know who they are. And instantly, and this is why Tim is not a good interviewer, because, a good interviewer just lets their guest talk, and you just gently tease information out of them, right? You let them talk. You can watch the interviews I've done with people. They last hours for a good reason, because you're just looking to interact. You get them to monologue, and then they'll say something interesting. You go, oh, so what about that? And then they give you more stuff. And it's interesting. It's fascinating. So, Ye said this thing, and instantly Tim goes, no, dismissive, no. And one, you don't say that. You've got to meld your personality to who you're working with. You're dealing with one of the biggest artists that was around. He's not he even said in the interview himself, he's learning to be an adult. He's learning to grow, because when you become famous, you essentially stop growing and you stop maturing, which is actually really quite a smart thing for him to say. So you're essentially dealing with a child, and you're dealing with a narcissist, because he's one of the biggest artists out there. And then you have someone going no to him, already saying, I would walk out of this if I'm being challenged on these things. No. Boom, straight away. What do you think's going to happen, Tim? You absolute reprobate. What do you actually think was going to happen at that point? And then he went on a massive tirade of basically saying, I don't know him anything. He wanted to talk about this. Yeah, he did. Why? You knew why he wanted to come on your show. Obviously, he wanted to talk about it. Obviously, he wanted the platform to discuss it. Really, is that lost on you, Tim? Like, for goodness sake. Absolutely, for goodness sake. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, I thought I would just cover that briefly, because I thought it was funny, because, I say it's comical that when Ye left, Tim banged on about not being able to give his views. Tim, your views have been the same and they've never changed. Your stance is singular. It's repetitive to the degree of nausea. We know your views, but people did tune in to hear the views of your guests, because that's the only reason they tuned in. They didn't tune in to listen to Tim. No one, 100,000 viewers weren't there to listen to Tim, right? At all. They were there to listen to Kanye, and for him to give, information on. And the thing is, regardless of what Kanye was going to say, whether it was going to be anti-Semitic or not, it doesn't matter, because that's Kanye saying it. And people are like, we shouldn't platform people like that. It doesn't matter. The individual touting it will destroy their own careers if that's the case, right? Like, that's just fine. Like, it's fine. Like, let them do what they want. It's not a big deal. You should platform people with ridiculous ideas, because then it gets into the public. This is why Twitter being censored all the time was always wrong, because you cause people to go down a rabbit hole rather than airing their views on a public platform where people can then challenge them. And it could have been that he revealed his opinions and actually had it revealed, actually had it teased out properly, where, yeah, they were incredibly anti-Semitic. And then boom, everyone knows it. And then his presidential run, which is rumored to be 2024, absolutely blows up in his face. Okay, cool. Then everyone gets what they want, who hates him and his views. But it could have been revealed, conversely to that, that actually his opinions, although appearing to be jumbled, had, a basis for credibility, and they weren't intentionally anti-Semitic. There's multiple avenues that could have gone down, But it didn't get anywhere because Tim Pool fundamentally is a shit interviewer. He doesn't interview people. He said himself he's there to talk about the news. Why have guests on then, you giant peen? Like, no one wants to listen to Kanye talking about the news. Read the room. Oh, anyway, I had to talk about that because I had to get that off my chest. And I wish other people were here to talk about it as well. I wish Latino Slant was here as well. But no, it's fine. I hope you. But I'd love to. I honestly, everyone's opinion on this. I mean, Nicky drops in for $5 and says, "Look, I know people hate Tim, but he barely pushed back on Kanye. How would Kanye handle a presidential debate?" No, I agree. I agree, right? But when you're an interviewer, and this is why Tim's not an interviewer, when you are an interviewer, you let people dig themselves a hole. So you don't actually need to push back. You question, and you question in a way where you go, "Oh, okay, so could you just explain that?" And if they say, "Well, you know," and you go, "What? I think I know what you mean, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Could you explain it?" It's all about coulds, not shoulds, and it's not no, it's not finite statements, especially not dealing with someone like Kanye. You always let them reveal themselves. You tease it out of them like that. But yeah, there you go. Tim needs to take a break. Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, no, everyone wanted to hear about Kanye talking about, the Jewish, his views on Jews. That's the only reason people were tuning in. Maybe a little bit about the Trump thing, and maybe a little bit about what the hell was going on with, Kanye and 2024 presidential run. But it was mainly about his views. People wanted to know what the hell was going on, which is a justified thing. People want to hear it. They want to go, what the hell is going on? And Nicky says, look, I hate that Milo and Nick were there. Yes. And I agree. And I actually do. I fundamentally believe that, like Kanye's not well, right? Like he's not a well person. We know that, sectioned, institutionalized, all these kind of things. He's not well. And when these people sort of gravitate around him, it's very much, you very much view it from a perspective of people taking advantage of someone, right? Like that's what it seems like to me. It's like someone taking advantage of someone that's not well. They're very unwell, and yeah, like someone like that just needs help at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't know, but I wanted to cover it, needed to cover it. Was important because I covered it over on Twitter, and I want to talk about it a little bit more. Basically, don't go watch Tim Pool for the guests because you'll never get what you want them to actually talk about. And he even said that. He's in his stream. He even said, "Yeah, well, I've had Blair White on here loads, and she even said to me, we've not once spoken about trans issues." Do you not think people watching that wanted to hear Blair White talk about trans issues? I think so. Like, you would have thought so, right? God. Basically, what Tim Pool is a wannabe Joe Rogan, but without actually interviewing people. He wants to talk about the news with people. He's Joe Rogan if they both sat down and had newspapers. And much shitter.